wisdom of astrology as an emotional health toolkit. I'm a professional astrologer, a master life coach, a published writer, and a podcaster. I have a private practice working with clients who are interested in learning how to support themselves emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and physically using the language of astrology as our access point. When my clients work with me, their relationships begin to transform and feel better. Their bodies and minds begin to relax, and resources like money and time begin to flow more freely. So we're going to talk about the moon today, but before we do that, we're going to talk about the sun. And I just want to let you know you're welcome to watch the presentation or just listen to it. Either way works. So I think it's safe to say when it comes to astrology, most of us know what our sun sign is, and that makes perfect sense. Because in astrology, the sun is considered a point of identity. The sun in our chart is determined by the month in which we were born, and it shows us the way that we self-express and also how we experience our essential vitality. Things that bring us joy and the things that make us feel alive. Our sun sign describes our attitude about life, details about our ego identity, and our inherent creativity. The sun is really important, but so are all of the other planets. There are so many interesting relationships happening within our natal charts. And our natal chart is the map of where the planets were when we were born. So today we're going to talk about the moon, and most people do not know what their moon sign is, which means that they're missing out on a beautiful window straight into their own soul. So why is the moon so important? Well, the moon tells us all about ourselves from an emotional perspective. What was our conditioning like? What do we need in order to feel emotionally secure? How do we respond to stress, to excitement? How do we mother ourselves? How do we mother others? How do we feel that we were mothered as a child? And the moon can tell us about all of those things. Do you know what your moon sign is? If not, I invite you to go now. I'm going to put up some instructions next, but you can cast a birth chart for yourself. So I'm going to put some instructions for how to do that, and all you have to do is just hit pause, and when you have a copy of your chart, you can hit play again. All right, so the moon influences the tides of every ocean on Earth. And since ancient times, human beings have timed their rituals, ceremonies, and daily rhythms to the phases of the moon. The female menstrual cycle, which is really deeply entwined with female emotional state on any given week, also has direct connection to the moon. And so you could say that the moon is an integral part of who we are and what we do on this planet. The moon rules the sign of Cancer and the 4th house. Cancer is a water sign, and water signs are the emotional signs in the zodiac. Cancer speaks to maternal instincts, which men also have. Sympathy, unconscious response, and relationship to family. The 4th house is about the past, our childhood home, our current home, our lineage, ancestry, childhood conditioning, and family of creation. The placement of the moon in our chart can describe what our childhood conditions were like and can give us some insight into our relationship to our family of origin. It can also explain the way we experience and seek out security, how we experience our own emotions, and it can give us wisdom around our very own survival instincts. In astrology, there are any number of factors that can influence our moon, including the sign and the house placement, and the relationship that it forms to the rest of the planets in our chart. I want to give you an example. Imagine yourself at a concert. What kind of music is playing? Is it too loud or is it just right? Is the crowd young or older? Are the people drinking and using drugs? Are people standing and dancing wildly or sitting in their seats listening? Is the concert inside or outside? With every answer, the mood of the concert changes a bit. It would be safe to say that who you are in each variation of that concert would be different based on who was there and what was happening. Obviously, you're going to experience a different version of yourself if you're at a concert with drunk, screaming fans versus a concert on a lawn where people are picnicking and enjoying the music in that way. And astrology is like this. Our natal charts have positive planet placements in them that help us feel really good and keep things rolling smoothly. while other planet placements are far more demanding and push us to be more disciplined in the manner in which we handle our experiences. So if your moon has a lot of harmony, you might find that you're able to maintain emotional balance really easily. You probably had a mother figure who nurtured you just right. If your moon has more difficult connections, you might find that your nervous system is more fragile and that you experience emotional ups and downs, or that your relationship with your mother figure has always felt rather lacking or challenging. Before you worry, though, our planets are here to teach us, and frankly, the lessons that are the hardest to learn are usually the most profound and powerful. So if you feel that you're someone for whom emotions have always felt like a lot of work or a really intense part of your life, well, it just means that you're someone that's naturally set up for profound transformational experiences if you're willing to play along. Now, the moon points to generalized characteristics that we all share, and then as we begin to look at the moon sign by sign, house by house, relationship by relationship to other planets, the information gets more specific. Let's start with some of the more general information. Each planet has a creative side, which is a light side, and a destructive side, which I call the shadow side. And we all vacillate between both sides and along the spectrum, often all day long. The shadow side of the moon. Our moon on a bad day can push us to act out in the following ways. We can become passive-aggressive, emotionally manipulative, needy, controlling, withholding, easily hurt, overly sensitive. The sign and the house placement of our personal moon can show us the manner in which we can be all of the above in our relationships. The bright side of the moon means that our moon on a good day can guide us to show up in the following ways. We can be physically affectionate, nurturing, responsive, kind and caring, warm and safe. The sign and house placement of our personal moon will show us the manner in which we can all be all of the above in our relationships. I don't have time in this video, unfortunately, to cover every detail about what your moon sign looks like in your chart, but I'd like to go sign by sign and tell a little bit about each of them. Remember that your moon is only one character in an entire tale, and so a generalized description is definitely not going to tell the entire story. If you'd like to know more about the story of your moon and how it shows up in your chart, you can schedule a private reading with me, or I have plenty of other ways that you can work with me. I do conduct all of my work over video conference, so you can sit in the comfort of your own home while you learn all about yourself. All right, so let's discuss the moon through the signs, and I'm going to name some of the beautiful things about each moon sign and mothering experience, and I'm going to name some of the shadow sides. It's entirely possible that you only relate to certain characteristics that I name. Again, if your moon has difficult aspects, you might relate to the shadow sides. And if your moon has a lot of harmony, you may relate more to the highlights. If you have an Aries moon, you likely experience emotions in the following ways. Emotions can feel impulsive. They can show up and leave as quickly as they came. You might have a quick temper. You might get loud when you're feeling emotional. You might forgive easily and quickly. You need qualities of vibrancy and excitement in your life in order to remain interested. What your mother may have been like: assertive, candid, social, and bossy. If you have a Taurus moon, you likely experience emotions in the following ways. Emotional security is directly connected to physical comfort. You might take longer than most to really become aware of what you're feeling. You may soothe yourself by eating food or spending money. You might go out of your way to avoid messy situations or highly emotional ones. You may experience emotional discomfort when your routine is thrown off. And here's what your mother may have been like: dependable, affectionate, rooted in her ways, practical, or stubborn. If you have a Gemini moon, you likely experience emotions in the following ways. Who wants to feel emotions? No, thank you. Let's talk about them instead. You might experience a variety of emotions about the same thing. You might be completely out of touch with your emotions. You might be far more interested in discussing the emotions of other people rather than discussing your own. You probably need a constant flow of new information in order to remain interested in anything at all. And here's what your mother may have been like: highly intelligent, a social butterfly, very disorganized, and even superficial. If you have a Cancer moon, you likely experience emotions in the following ways. You feel emotions really deeply. Your feelings might get hurt a lot if you don't like to ask for what you need, but you like to insist that others intuit your needs instead. And you might take a long time to forgive. You may use the issues of people around you to distract yourself from your own feelings. And you may have a finely tuned sense of empathy and compassion. And here's what your mother may have been like: nurturing, compassionate, manipulative, or emotionally needy. If you have a Leo moon, you likely experience emotions in the following ways. Emotions can feel big and dramatic. You might have a quick temper, especially if you feel slighted. You might get your feelings hurt if no one is paying you any attention. You might be able to channel your emotions into amazing creative endeavors. You need physical affection, and you need to feel as if you're respected and loved in order to thrive. Here's what your mother may have been like: artistic and creative, warm and playful, arrogant, or self-centered. If you have a Virgo moon, you likely experience emotions in the following ways. You might feel as if you have to repress your emotions so that they aren't a burden. You might find yourself feeling very critical and judgmental when you're under stress. You might feel very contracted when you get angry and direct it internally instead of externally. You might get very stressed out when something in your life lacks structure and predictability. And you can likely be a calming presence for others when chaos ensues, even if you're panicking on the inside. And your experience of your mother might have been like this: that she was helpful and always taking care of you, that she was organized, but also that she was hard to please or that she was nervous. If you have a Libra moon, you likely experience emotions in the following ways. Your emotions may take second place to the emotions of others. You may have a hard time figuring out how you really feel about something, especially if someone else has really strong feelings around it. You might favor the good emotions and ignore the uncomfortable ones. You might forgive quickly and easily just to keep the peace. And you need for things to feel good and calm in order to relax and enjoy life. And here's what your mother might have been like: a peacekeeper, good at negotiating with you, easily distracted with her own life, and a people pleaser. If you have a Scorpio moon, you likely experience emotions in the following ways. Emotions can feel quite intense. You might have a quick temper that feels really hard to control. You might find yourself seething or stewing when you feel wronged or caught off guard. You probably don't forgive very easily at all. You might either repress the emotions that don't feel good or really enjoy exploring them to see what your triggers are and why they're there in the first place. And here's what your mother may have been like: passionate and interesting, obsessive or self-absorbed, emotionally manipulative, or emotionally repressed. If you have a Sagittarius moon, you likely experience emotions in the following ways. Emotions can feel larger than life. You might embellish the way that you feel to the point that you lose touch with what's really happening internally. You might get really excited about things. You might like to focus on the things that feel good and refuse to acknowledge the existence of the things that don't. You need adventures and excitement in order to feel that all is well in the world. And here's what your mother may have been like: fun and exciting, worldly and wise, talkative and undependable, overly optimistic. If you have a Capricorn moon, you likely experience emotions in the following ways. You may feel as if you're an observer of your emotions, as opposed to really having them. You might ruminate when you're upset. You might be able to access disapproval of others and yourself quite easily. You might not even allow yourself to feel emotions at all. You need to be able to control your external world in order to feel secure. And here's what your mother might have been like: efficient, dependable and no nonsense, punitive and authoritative. If you have an Aquarius moon, you likely experience emotions in the following ways. Emotional detachment feels quite comfortable. You prefer to examine your emotions logically with a hands-off attitude. You may love to be different and unique. You may not care all that much about the emotions of others. You need as much information as possible presented in interesting ways in order to remain interested and emotionally engaged. And here's what your mother might have been like: brilliant, highly intelligent, non-traditional or eccentric, not attuned to your needs, and hands-off. If you have a Pisces moon, you likely experience emotions in the following ways. Emotions can feel really confusing. You may feel as if you're wearing rose-colored glasses or that things are always good. You might slip easily into fantasy or Neverland, especially when you're under stress. You might feel easily wounded or hurt. You might physically and emotionally feel the emotions of the other people around you. And here's what your mother may have been like: kind, sweet, compassionate, spiritual or intuitive, removed, hard to get to, cold or distant. So, does this information resonate with you? Did you recognize some of these qualities in yourself or in the ways that you experienced your own mothering? Like I said earlier, the moon as an archetype is vast and it contains many different pieces of story. If you've never had an astrology reading before, I'd recommend one, as they're really informative and they can illuminate some key pieces of who you are in ways that you've never seen before. Plus, it's really neat to see how all of the planets in your chart influence you, and there's only so much that you can glean from internet research. Thank you so much for taking the time and interest to watch my moon sign tutorial. Every planet in astrology holds a different chapter of wisdom that's directly applicable to you and your life. Keep an eye out for more informative astrological emails from me, and I look forward to perhaps meeting and working with you someday.